Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into TradeChat. My name is Panzer, and today we are going to be talking about the Warcraft movie and whether or not it was bad. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you do, remember to rate it thumbs up. So before I get into the actual video, I do want to be transparent and I want to clarify a couple things for you. If you are unfamiliar with me or my channel, I am definitely a huge fan of World of Warcraft. I've played for nearly 10 years. I've never had a lapse in my subscription or taken any breaks from World of Warcraft. I obviously own a lot of World of Warcraft paraphernalia, and the majority of my YouTube channel is dedicated to World of Warcraft videos and other Blizzard games. So just so that we're all on the same page, I'm definitely coming at this from the game fandom side of the spectrum. But all of that being said, I'm actually not usually a very big fan of movies. It's really just hard for me to sit still for 2 hours doing nothing and being quiet. So yeah, just so that we got all of that out of the way and you don't think I'm trying to hide anything or, be disingenuous with my affiliations, that's where I stand on the side of, do I like the game, do I like movies kind of thing. I do want to talk a little bit about the other reviews that have been coming out before I get into my personal thoughts on the movie, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. So just a few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be able to attend a press screening of the Warcraft movie at Universal Studios in IMAX 3D. It was May 10th, I think. So it's still pretty fresh on my mind. I did write down a whole page of notes the moment I left the theater, but I have been waiting to film a video about it for a few reasons. One, I did not want to accidentally spoil anything for anyone. Two, I did not want to get in trouble with the production company saying something I wasn't supposed to say. And three, I didn't want to film a video while still in full fangirl mode because that seems kind of really biased. But since the movie came out yesterday overseas and a bunch of publications are releasing reviews on the Warcraft movie, particularly negative bandwagon reviews, now seems like a good time to talk about it. And I know you've seen them from Variety and Kotaku, Rotten Tomatoes, Forbes, and The Wrap, whatever that is. They are all trampling each other to write the most hipster report on what a steaming pile of crap the Warcraft movie is. So before I get into my personal opinion and review of the movie, I do want to address a couple things when it comes to Hollywood type movie reviews. Numero uno, these publications' reviews are not unique. I see the same thing just reworded in every single article. And I'm not saying that oh, so you can trust them because they're all saying the same thing. Actually, very much the opposite. I feel like someone said something negative and then a bunch of people were oh yeah, we don't like this movie. Yeah, we don't like this movie. Plus, the theme of all of the articles is that movie adaptations of video games are never good. So it's they were all going into this looking for things to hate. They were never even going to give it a chance to begin with. And I am a firm believer that any situation that you go into, if you are dead set on looking for things that you don't like, you're not gonna like it because you've set yourself up for failure. Number two, I feel like maybe the people who were chosen to do these reviews for these huge publications were not the best people to be reviewing the Warcraft movie. And I'm not really suggesting that they needed to pick World of Warcraft players or that they needed to pick people who have never played WoW, but it seems really odd to me that Kotaku would assign someone who avidly plays Destiny, not World of Warcraft, to review the Warcraft movie. You have a team of people, and you couldn't have chosen someone who either A, doesn't play an MMORPG, or B, plays World of Warcraft. Why would you pick someone who plays competing games to World of Warcraft? It's not just Destiny, it's other MMORPGs as well, because he's one of those people who plays multiple MMORPGs. Anyways, the guy from The Wrap, he rated Dragon Ball Evolution 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. We can't trust his opinion at all. We can't do it. But my hands down favorite is that Forbes, which I don't know why they would be reviewing movies in the first place, but Forbes did an entire article about how the Warcraft movie has clearly not broken the stigma of bad video game movies and blah, blah, blah. Not because anyone at Forbes has actually seen the movie. Oh, no, no, no. They wrote this entire article sourcing 3 negative reviews. Why is that a necessary thing in the world? Like, why do you need to compile several negative people's thoughts and make an article about it and present it like it's canon? No one saw the movie, and then they wrote, and like maybe as you read the article, it's clear that they haven't actually seen the movie, but the title doesn't imply that. The title is like, the Warcraft movie has not broken the stigma. Like, you wouldn't know that. You're going on someone else's opinion. Someone else who thought Dragon Ball Evolution was a good movie. This is real life. I'm not kidding. Forbes wrote a review on a movie that they didn't see. Journalism. Number 3, and in my opinion, the most important thing to keep in mind is that a lot of really well-loved movies, highly regarded movies that are widely considered to be fantastic movies, got horrible reviews on their opening weekends. Would you like some examples? The Sixth Sense, Malcolm X, Fight Club, The Shining, Footloose, Halloween, Wet Hot American Summer, Pretty Woman, Caddyshack, Gladiator, Forrest Gump, The Wizard of Freaking Oz, Titanic, and motherfucking Star Wars. Star Wars received overly critical reviews opening weekend. Star Wars. Just to be clear, I am not insinuating in any way, shape, or form that the Warcraft movie is comparable to Star Wars in the level of like iconic things or fantastic things in history. I'm just saying that some really fantastic movies that people love got bad reviews, and I think that's important to keep in mind. I'm gonna take it down a couple notches. I got a little intense there, and I apologize. All that I'm suggesting is that maybe we don't use other people's opinions to formulate our own. It's fine to read these reviews, but I think it's important to keep in mind that those people do not represent what you like and what you don't like, and you shouldn't, be trashing a movie you haven't seen yet because so-and-so said it wasn't good because so-and-so said Dragon Ball Evolution was good. I'm just saying. Anyways, let me go on and move into the notes that I wrote down after I actually saw the movie. And now the first part of this video was a little more prepared, whereas I kind of wanted to be a little more organic and not structured for the second part. So I apologize if it doesn't come out as fluently, but I'm going to do the best I can. So these are my notes that I wrote down after I saw the Warcraft movie, and I think they're a little scattered and not in perfect order, but I'm going to do the best I can. There will be absolutely no spoilers whatsoever. I am not trying to ruin this experience for you, because if it is a movie that you saw a trailer, or that maybe you're a big fan of the Warcraft universe, or maybe you just like fantasy type movies, I think you should go see it. I don't think it's a waste of money. I think that you'll have a good time. I don't know that you'll walk away saying it was the best movie of all time, but I don't think there are many movies that you walk away from saying that was the best movie of all time. It's definitely enjoyable. It's something I'm going to see several times in theaters. I will own the collector's edition, director's cut, whatever is available, because it is a movie that I want to support, and I want them to make sequels, and I really enjoyed it. But my enjoyment of the movie may not reflect yours, and I'm not trying to falsely put that out there. So just that we're clear, I'm going to get into the notes that I wrote after the movie, and I hope that maybe you find this whole video helpful. So when the movie starts off, there is a fight scene between an orc and a human. You've seen it in trailers, and it sort of is not super, super relevant to the plot, and I thought that the 3D was a little jarring at first. Maybe the first 5 minutes, it took me a minute to adjust, and I don't know if it's that it got better or that I got used to it, but to be fair, I've never, ever been a fan of 3D movies. I used to wear glasses, and it was really annoying, glasses for glasses. And ever since I got LASIK, I tend to extra stare when I'm wearing 3D glasses, so my eyes get dry, and I'm just not a huge fan of 3D movies. I would prefer to see anything in 2D. So I'm not even sure that that's a fantastic critique, because it's very personal. I don't like 3D in any movies. But that being said, if you notice it when you first sit down and you're like, oh, this seems a little jarring, it goes away. In the first 5 minutes, you no longer notice it. And the 3D is not gratuitous. They're not doing the thing where they're reaching out at you, and it's not tacky like that. The 3D is done well. I just don't really care for 3D movies. There were also a lot of really, really good nods to the fandom. And Most of them were done extremely subtly, extremely well, to the point where if someone was sitting next to you, you'd be like nudging them. Yeah, Lewis from Yogscast, I'm sorry, but I think I punched him once. So I watched this in a theater that was with a press screening, and a bunch of the guys from Yogscast were there, most of which I did not know. Like, I think I knew 2 of them, and then 3 or 4 of them were new to me, and I was sitting next to Lewis from Yogscast, and I think I, like, punched him the first time something exciting happened, because I got so excited, I was, like, flailing, and I'm sorry. Anyway, so you will see a lot of really cool, like, nods to people who do play the game, just little references here and there, and I don't want to give any of them away because I want you to, like, experience them firsthand, but I'm very, very excited to see the movie again. I saw it on May 10th, and then I'm going to the actual premiere in Hollywood on the 6th, and then I'm going to see it again in my hometown. So I'll see it at least 3 times in theaters, but I'll probably see it more. Anyways, so I'm really excited to see it a second time because I think there's going to be even more stuff that I didn't catch and that I didn't pick up the first time around, but there were a lot of really good subtle nods to fans, even with, like, characters in the background of the Horde being named recognizable characters from World of Warcraft. And that's something that they didn't necessarily have to do. Like, they didn't have to put, bosses from Hellfire Citadel. I don't want to say who they are because you'll, like, pick them out when you watch the movie, but they didn't have to put them there because it's not like they had lines. It's not like they were part of the plot. It was just like they would have been there in the way the story panned out, but that attention to detail was so, so good for me. This is, like, my biggest criticism of the whole movie, and it's so stupid, but so in the beginning of the movie, I mean, and you see this in the previews as well, so I'm not, like, spoiling anything, but Draka is obviously pregnant, and at some point in the movie, she gives birth. I mean, we've seen baby Thrall, so it's, like, none of that is spoilery, but I just, in general, am very uncomfortable with pregnancy and birth, and there is birth. It's not like it's graphic or anything like that, but just, like, I don't want to be anywhere near any person or thing giving birth. I'm sorry. Maybe it's me being immature. I don't know. I just am missing a maternal instinct. So I'm not a big fan of seeing, like, uncovered pregnant bellies. I'm not a big fan of, like, I don't even want to see kittens being born. It's just a personal thing. I'm not telling anyone to cover up or anything like that. It's just my personal preference would be not to witness the miracle of childbirth. I'm just not into it. So there is a scene where it's like, they don't show anything, but obviously at some point in the movie she gives birth because she's pregnant and then she has Thrall. And she just did not like that scene at all, but again, that's just me. I don't think that's, like, a valid criticism of the movie. That's probably just me being very immature. Every single scene with magic is amazing. Like, I loved all of the magic scenes. Like, you see a lot of recognizable spells, which I thought was really cool. They also present the mages in a really cool way where, like, they draw runes on the ground and then there's a circle and then the lights up and it was really cool. Like, all of the special effects with the spell casting animations and stuff like that was absolutely phenomenal. And Ben Foster, who played Medivh, was scary. He was very, like, haunting, and he was very believable in that role. And I've seen a couple reviews that said the acting was bad, and to that I outwardly say bullshit, because, like I said, I don't even like movies. And for the most part, that's a big reason why. I'll be watching a movie and I'm like, really? Really? And I'm not saying that every single thing in the movie that happens is, like, believable, but it's fiction. It's not real. It's not a documentary. But, like, the acting is phenomenal. Like, I feel like I didn't ever feel like my immersion was broken, which is something that I experience in a lot of other movies and TV shows and stuff. So I highly disagree. I thought the acting was phenomenal, particularly from Ben Foster, who was, like, you just never knew what was going on in his head. You just never knew what his motives were. You never knew what he was thinking. And I think just that very idea of a character is so scary because you just don't know at any point, which is very true to Medivh in the lore. But he played a very fantastic character. I do wish that they had talked more about fel magic, which they did, and they went into it a little bit here and there, but I do wish that we had heard a little more about it. Like, there were some little lore backstories here and there that I feel like they could have cut to put other lore backstories in. You know what I mean? Like, they talked about how Khadgar was, like, taken from his family or given from his family to the Dalaran mages to study and blah, blah, blah. And, like, in my opinion, I thought that little moment could have been better used to explain other things. But that's part of it, is just that I know what goes on in the game, so I just want to see it on the big screen. Also, there's some questions towards the end of the movie that I had, but I think that the reason for that was that they were hoping for a sequel, so they left some things like open-ended. Ben Schnetzer, who plays Khadgar, is amazing. Like, he is a complete and total scene stealer. I feel like all my favorite little like one-liners are from his character, and I thought it was really, really good for them to present his character with a sense of humor. Like, he's not overly serious, which is another thing that I kept seeing in reviews where they're like, they tried to take themselves too seriously. They absolutely did not. Like, I'm not saying it was like slapstick comedy, but there were a lot of like laughs, there were a lot of giggles, but overall the movie itself was very dark. Like, it wasn't overly, I can't describe what I'm trying to say right now, but the people who left reviews that were like, oh, they tried to take themselves too seriously, I fully disagree. Maybe you went into this thinking it was going to be a 100% serious movie, but I feel from the trailers that you wouldn't have known that it was, it's a movie about war. There's a lot of very dark themes about it, but then they still did manage to put in these really like humanizing moments of humor. And most of them involved Khadgar because he's young, he's sarcastic, he talks back, he's Khadgar. And he completely stole every scene that he was in. And my favorite line from the movie, and you'll see this when you see it, is, "Do I go in?" And from what you've seen in the previews, I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything, but that is my favorite like moment of the whole movie. I thought that was hilarious, and I thought it was really memorable, and I liked it a lot. Also, Travis completely was Lothar. Like, I believed everything about Travis. There were parts where he plays really funny. There's parts where he's kind of trolly. There's parts where he's really serious. There's parts where, he's really emotional. And I feel like I fully believed Travis as Lothar. So I thought he was really, really amazing. Also, Lady Tarja was like a surprising, like, favorite character. She was... A lot of times when you have a queen in a movie, they are an accessory to the king. They are not their own character in their own right. And Lady Tarja, who is King Lane's wife, she is a really, really good character. Like, she is diplomatic and she is well respected. She is a queen in her own right. And I really, really appreciated the way that they depicted her character, especially since they had a lot of freedom with her. We don't see a lot of her in the lore, if any. So I think they did an absolutely phenomenal job with her character. And she's just a very grounding character who has a lot of empathy. And she seems like she's much more... not only can she see both sides of things, but she has a way of like helping other people see both sides of things that doesn't come across as like tacky or like overly motherly. I thought Lady Tarja was an amazing character. And just in general, I felt like women, and I know like I'm not like trying to like push a feminist agenda and in any way, shape, or form. I just think that all of the women in the movie were depicted really well. Like, we had a wide variety of female characters, and I didn't feel like any of them were used in a typical tropey sense. Like, even you see, obviously, Garona in the beginning, she's wearing her, like, Gul'dan slave outfit, which is skimpy, but it's certainly not depicted in a sexual way. It's like the reason she is wearing skimpy leather and stuff is because she's a slave and she's not respected enough to wear real like armor and battle gear like all of the other orcs. It's not about humiliating her by showing off her body. It's about taking that power that a real orc would have away from her. And at no point is she ever like treated like an object in that way. And Lady Tarja obviously is an amazing character. And then we see females in the Stormwind army. We see female warriors on the orc side. We see women just used in a lot of really good ways. And I know a lot of people were very concerned that Garona was going to be like a love interest or this would be a love story. And I'm not confirming or denying that there's any sort of thing like that in there, but it's not done in a way that, in my opinion, is objectifying or that diminishes her story. If anything, it furthers her story, not the opposite. I thought it was really, really well done. Also, I thought that some of the lore was smushed. The events that take place in the movie, in the books or in the universe, the books, whatever you want, would have been, I want to say something like 6 to 10 years. And they never really say how much time goes by, but it seems like it's very quick. It seems like it would be a couple weeks or maybe a month. But that was just my perspective of it from seeing it one time. But I think it's also important to remember that how do you portray 10 years of stuff in a couple hours? I mean, things have to be adapted and changed for the big screen, and I understand that. There were a couple little like lore things, like I said earlier, that I would have liked them to focus more on this instead of that, but I don't think that took away from the overall plot of the movie. I mean, when the movie ended, I wanted there to be more. It wasn't like I was like, oh, thank God this is over. Where there have been movies that I have sat in the theater. I mean, just to name one off the top of my head, has anyone seen Alien vs. Predator Requiem? That was like the worst movie ever. But there have been several movies in my life that I have like sat in the theater being like, okay, we get it. Is it over yet? Whereas like this, I was like, no, it can't be over. I want more. And I didn't feel like it was slow paced or that it was, 2 hours is a long time and I didn't feel like it was too long. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think my favorite part of the whole movie was just Garona's character in general. It's not marketed this way, but Garona, in my opinion, is the main character of the movie, and it is her story, and that's very much why. I mean, a lot of people have asked, and they don't directly address it in the movie, why she's half orc and half human instead of half orc and half Draenei, but it's very clear that she is supposed to be this, like, common factor between the orcs and the humans. Like, she's a catalyst for peace or a catalyst for war. Like, she's the only thing that connects them both, essentially, I guess. So they don't directly explain why or how she is half orc and half human, but I do know that her little lore bit was filmed, and because the movie got so long, it was cut out, and it will be in the director's cut of the movie, which makes me super excited for this to come out on DVD because I'm dying to actually see that in practice. So, practice. I apologize. Also, I thought Garona could have been bulkier, and that is just a personal thought of mine, and I think that's because in game I'm used to seeing Garona as like an orc female model, not a human model, and she's obviously, she wasn't CG. Well, her green skin was CG, which I thought was really interesting because in one of the early movie posters for the Warcraft movie, she was like her regular skin tone, that kind of like olive skin tone, and people were like highly, highly critical of that, but it's because her green is CG'd, like she's not painted green, it's done with special effects afterwards, so I think that's why she ended up being regular colored in one of the posters, because maybe an intern didn't get the memo, but regardless, I would have liked to see her be bulkier. Like maybe she would have been better if she was CG and just not the same sort of look as all the other orcs. Not that the other orcs look the same. I think they said something that there was like 52 or like 53 individual pieces that they could mix and match to like make each orc look different, and that there were like thousands of unique models, which I would agree. I don't think I noticed any two orcs being like unrecognizable from each other, but she could have been bulkier. And as you've seen in previews, there are actually Draenei in the movie, so if she wasn't going to be half Draenei, I feel like they should have left that scene in. But I don't think that's like a movie ruining thing, I don't think it's like, whoa, what a crap movie, we don't know why Garona's half human. Like that's something that maybe, maybe they wanted to put it in the director's cut, maybe they were planning on going into that more in a sequel. It's not like a make or break thing. I also really, really loved seeing the other races. There were dwarves, and there were elves, and there were Draenei. I know at one point they were thinking about putting trolls in the movie, but they didn't make it to the final cut, but that's okay. There were a lot of other races, and they were all really, really well done, and overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and I would particularly say that anybody who has played WoW or is a fan of WoW or has been a fan of WoW should definitely give it a whirl, because I think it'll be something that you'll really enjoy. And these things that we don't like about the movie, if there is a sequel and we are politely critical, those are things that might be fixed in the sequel. So if there is a sequel, I don't know if there is, but yeah, I liked it. I'm very surprised to see these super, super negative reviews coming out. I also think it's really shitty that every movie in the fantasy genre is immediately compared to Lord of the Rings. Like, give me a fucking break. You know what? Unpopular opinion. I haven't been able to make it through a Lord of the Rings movie. I have tried, and they're slow, and they're boring, and I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what the hype is all about. Like, if that's a movie that people love, I don't get it. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of movies, so what do I know? But I don't know. I think it's really unfair that you take these movies, they're so well acclaimed, and, you know, they have such a strong fandom. I think it's really unfair to be like, oh, well, the Warcraft movie isn't like Game of Thrones. Okay. Fantastic. Do you have any other obvious things you would like to point out? You know, it's just so dumb. And I think that in any situation, you just can't factor in strangers' opinions as being so important to you that you're going to make up your mind over whether you're going to go see a movie that maybe you wanted to see, and maybe you're like, oh, well, now I'm not going to see it. Bad reviews. Like, I disagree. I disagree with the reviews. I thought the acting was good. And I will admit, like, I didn't love the 3D, but that's personal preference. I don't love the 3D in any movie. Like, I have seen so many 3D movies in 2D because I don't like 3D. But, I mean, I get it. I get that right now, the way the US box office works is that if you want a movie to be a headlining movie, it has to be IMAX 3D. Because for theaters that have IMAX 3D, like, you're going to not be in theaters as long. You're not, you know what I mean? Like, that's all, it's always going to be the IMAX 3D movie that sells out. So I get it. I just personally don't prefer it. But in general, I liked it. I'm not saying it was the best movie of all time. I'm not saying it's the next Lord of the Rings or the next Star Wars, or I'm not making claims like that, but it was an enjoyable movie. I liked it a lot. I will see it multiple times. I hope there's a sequel, or maybe even more than that. But I don't think the reviews that the Warcraft movie is getting are fair. Like, Jurassic World has a 72% Rotten Tomatoes rating. Why? Like, that movie I just don't understand. I don't understand why some movies are really well acclaimed and some are not. I don't get it. But I'm not a movie critic, and I'm not even that big of a movie fan, but I really, really, truly enjoyed the movie. I'm going to see it again. I would recommend that my friends and stuff see it, whether they've played WoW or not, because I think it's a good movie. So I'm just really discouraged to see people just kind of jumping on a negative bandwagon because that's the cool thing to do. Because, there's a lot of cases in life where, you know, being negative is I don't want to say prosperous, but it's a popular thing to do, you know? Like, oh, screw that. Yeah, we hate that. Whereas I've never really been one to jump on bandwagons like that. And I'm not saying I don't like things. Like, there's lots of, I don't like things. You know what I mean? Like, there's obviously things in this world I don't like. And I'm not making these bold claims like, this was the greatest cinematic masterpiece and it's going to change your life. Like, no, it was really good, though. I mean, it was dark, and I thought it really captured the struggle in a situation where there's a war going on, and it's not like they're gonna ride off into the sunset on unicorns. And I don't know if maybe because the ending wasn't like textbook happy, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't ride off in the sunset on a freaking sparkly celestial steed. I mean, I liked the ending, but a lot of people might be disappointed that it wasn't a textbook everything's wonderful, happy ending. But the movie is called Warcraft. I just don't understand what people would be missing about the movie. I don't know. I thought it was a good movie. I would recommend going and seeing it. I have done my absolute best to avoid spoilers. I don't think that saying that the ending wasn't like stereotypically textbook happy ending is a spoiler, because it's called Warcraft. Like, and again, then we know the war is still going on. Like, do you think the orcs and the humans just have a tea party at the end and chiz, mate? Like, that's not what happens. Spoiler. But it's really good. I would recommend going and seeing it. I think that if you go into it with an open mind, you will have fun and you'll enjoy it. But That's just my 2 cents. And I'm not saying like, oh, everything I say is canon. I'm right, they're wrong. The only one who's wrong is the guy who thought that Dragon Ball Evolution was 4 out of 5. He's wrong. We can't trust what he says. But that was my view on the whole thing. I know this kind of turned into a very long video, but a lot of people have been asking me to talk about it. I did the best I could without giving any... I think I did a good job. I think I avoided the plot completely, to be honest. I don't think you guys are walking away from this having any idea what's going on. But I did my best. I hope you're having a good day. I'm going to go. I'm scared of the comment section. I love you all. You're in my heart. So I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.